support conservation efforts. His dedication to safeguarding India's history has earned him one of the nation's highest honors, the Padma Shri Award. Please join me in welcoming Padma Shri K.K. Muhammed ji. Thank you, sir, for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be here. Next, we have Dr. Tejaswini Yarlagadda, a historian and heritage conservationist with a PhD in socio-economic history from Central University of Hyderabad. As the founder of Pleach India Foundation, she has pioneered efforts to revitalize archaeological heritage and make it more accessible to new generations. Her work integrates community engagement, urban heritage conservation, and policy making, ensuring that India's cultural treasures remain relevant in today's world. Please welcome Dr. Tejaswini Yarlagadda.
I don't want to move anything.
Dr. Tejaswini will also be the moderator for this panel. Thank you, ma'am. We are also delighted to introduce Kalpana Ramesh, a renowned water conservationist and environmentalist, fondly known as the Water Warrior. Through the Rainwater Project, she has restored 30 historic step wells, revived thousands of bore wells, and planted over 600 trees near water bodies. Honored as one of the 7 women to take over PM Modi's social media Women's Day 2020, Kalpana's dedication to sustainability was highlighted in Prime Minister's Mann Ki Baat speech, featuring the Basilan Page step well. She is a true advocate for sustainable heritage conservation. Please give a warm welcome to Kalpana Ramesh. Next, we have Amar Ramesh, a renowned photographer whose work captures India's heritage, architecture, and cultural narratives. His passion for storytelling through photography has led him to document lesser known heritage sites, bringing their histories to life. His visual storytelling helps bridge the gap between past and present, making heritage more accessible to the younger generation. Amar Ramesh has come from Chennai to be with us this evening. Let's welcome him. Finally, we have Akul Tripathi, a show host, writer, and filmmaker who specializes in bringing history and heritage to the forefront through engaging narratives. As the director and producer of Ekaant, he has explored some of India's most fascinating and pivotal historical sites, bringing the untold stories to the world. His work highlights the role of media in preserving and promoting the heritage tourism. Please welcome Akul Tripathi, who came all the way from Mumbai to participate in the event. Welcome, sir. With such incredible panel, we look forward to engaging discussions. Let's get started. We request Ms. Annapurna to hand over Aikita hampers to our guests.
late at this time on a weekend. Thank you so much for coming here. Before I start this program, I just want to recite some verses that Sri K.K. Muhammed sir had spoken when he had given a Pleach talk at organization. So he started that speech with sir, I'm sure you remember. सुनने की मोहलत मिले तो आवाज़ है पत्थरों में, सुनने की मोहलत मिले तो आवाज़ है पत्थरों में. If you have time to listen, there is a lot of stories to be heard from the stones. This is what we are here for, to listen to those stories, not just looking at a building and then, just going back. There's so many stories to listen to, we just have to know the way to do it. So here we have a panel of experts today who are going to show us different ways of understanding those stories from different works of sculptures and art that we have in our heritage structures. We all know that India is blessed with plenty of treasures. Many of them we know, many of them we don't know as well. But we normally celebrate these treasures through the monuments. But what happens to the individual sculptures, artworks? What happens to them? Who's going to notice them? How do we get to know about those things? So today we have a panel of experts who speak about their experiences. They've dealt with those individual sculptures and artworks, and they're going to tell us about their experiences and how we can understand them when we go to a heritage structure. And we're going to understand through them how can art become the missing link in the heritage tourism, and how are we going to connect it to the heritage tourism in a way that everybody comes together to connect it, not only connect with it, but also speak about it all the time. We are the ambassadors for our country, so let's just go about not only seeing the heritage structures, but understanding them in such a way that we connect to our roots and grow in strength from that for present and future, not just to understand the past. So today I'm going to ask, since introductions are over, I'm going to actually ask questions. Sir, you have done amazing works. And the Bateshwar temple, I just want to take that example. It has fascinated me. What did you feel about the sculptural assets that were there as you were conserving it? What kind of language and then what kind of expression you felt people needed to know about it?
Namaskar. This one, because India is very rich as far as the monuments are concerned, and we have a very glorious civilization also. And the index for the heritage strength of the country is the number of UNESCO monuments. All over the world, we have 1,200 World Heritage Monuments. Out of that, 43 monuments are in India. It's a huge package. Because if you divide this 1,200 with the number of countries registered, each country will be having 7 monuments. But the fact that we have got 43 monuments in the list of World Heritage Monuments, that shows the monumental strength of India. So that is one thing, so that is something we are in a very good position. Now comes the second aspect which you said, with how to marry it with tourism and also with the other things, because there are so many other things when we go to a monument. We simply go to the monument, we look at it, we admire it, but with the finer aspect of a monument that we often either ignore or we don't give them the facilities to see them. So there, there should be, whenever a person goes to a monument, there should be a small documentary movie about the history, about the heritage, about the historical vicissitudes through which this monument and the surrounding area had passed through. That should be there. And then about the final elements for decorative elements. Today our exhibition, so many decorative elements are there. The aesthetic points of view. So all these should be highlighted in that documentary. And from that point he should be picked up by a very well informed guide who would be able to put a tongue in each and every stroke. And once he takes you through the corridors of time, the magnitude of the mound will multiply several times. It would be, you would be in a completely different world. So that is what I call enhanced experience in a monument, or an experiential experience in a monument. And if you are able to read the poem which you recited, सुनने की मोहलत मिले तो आवाज है पत्थरों में, सुनने की मोहलत मिले तो आवाज है पत्थरों में, उजड़े हुए बस्तियों में भी आबादियां बोलती हैं, जब कोई नहीं बोलता तो खामोशियां बोलती, दर दीवार से उतर के परछाई में बोलती. So that kind of experiential experience if you have it, when you come back, आपको जो बिल्कुल कुंडलिनी रेज किया. So that experience we should have it. So if we can have tourism department, because the tourism department is bringing the people, but then other facilities also should be given by tourism department and Archaeological Survey of India also, both of them. Then it would be completely different experience. For example, when she visited Nalanda. Nalanda, okay, we know the history of Nalanda and other things. But if somebody says that this was the place where Mahatma Buddha had walked through inflection, then your experience will be different. This was the place to study where Fianzan had walked 16,000 kilometers, both on northern and southern, this was Silk Road. Then your experience would be again multiplied. And if you have said that, because there were huge 3 libraries, and this was the first university, because Birmingham University, which is considered the modern university, that came in 11th century, Oxford University in 12th century, Cambridge University in 13th century, but 600 years before that you had an international university where students were studying in different countries. So if you are taught all these things, then your experience will be completely different. So that is what I said, that we should be picked up by a very well informed guide from that particular point, and then show him the place of the 3 libraries of Nalanda, Ratnaganga, Ratnavadi, Ratnasagara, which were completely burned by this one Bhakti Amriti when he attacked this one. So all things in a very artful form, and as in a storytelling way, you have to present it. And Akul Tripathi is the best example for that one.
Yes.
Even in Bhatteshwar also, he has made very artful form. It should be a storytelling way. So if it is presented, people would be coming more and more, and they would have that experiential experience. That is what we have to create. And we have to pressurize the government also for that. Otherwise, they will not be accepted. Because they don't have visionaries and they don't have the dynamism. That is the biggest problem we are facing in Archaeological Survey of India also.
Thank you, sir. So we all know that there is a lot. Monuments are nothing but thoughts that we have.
Yes.
So we have to know what these things to understand, and we need a context for that.
Yes.
So it's something which people who are really interested in heritage will anyway know about it.
Yes.
How do we connect to people who have no idea about it? In the sense, they don't know, they just go to the site and see, think it's a beautiful place, so has built it,
Yes.
that's it,
Yes,
and
yes.
come back.
Yes, yes.
Even when you go to a living temple,
Yes.
which has a heritage background,
Yeah.
we just go, pray and come back. We miss so many things.
Yes, yes.
So these are the missing links which
Yes.
will ultimately make the bigger
Yes.
picture.
Yes.
So I would actually like to understand from Kalpana Ramesh now. You are not from a heritage background, Kalpana, and you're a water warrior. Along with that, you accidentally got into heritage, but I know that your passion for it is amazing. Now that you picked it so beautifully, I want to understand from you the steps. The step wells have been built. They're all heritage structures again. So how did you experience about the stories that you got to hear from the step wells as you were trying to renovate them and relocate the whole place?
I think all of us have a childhood, and there are certain influences from our childhood who makes who we are today. So My mother is from Kanchivaram. All our summer holidays we've spent in temples of every kind, small, big, right from the Tejaswini temple to the Vajraja temple, Kamakshi temple. So everywhere this art and architecture is literally in our blood. I mean, it's in our system. So architecture, the education and architecture sort of mold that direction, gave that direction. And when there was an opportunity to work for water conservation, and then when this 7-year research with Pratibha Design Forum opened up a whole new story that there are more than 500 stepwells in our Telangana. Usually we look at stepwells in Rajasthan and Gujarat and stuff. So when this whole thing opened up and there seemed an opportunity to work towards the conservation of stepwells, like K.K. Mohammed said, those days when the wells were made, the context is different. Today the context has changed. So I visited a lot of stepwells in the north which were restored. I actually understood for a few years that there is no holistic restoration anywhere. So I thought that when restoration is done, just like exactly what you said, sir, I resonate with every word of what you said. A stepwell restored is not a place where you just go look at water and the structure and come back. How do you create that experience for that person who walks in there? So creation of these interpretation centers, interpretation of history. We started creating small models of the stepwell. So I started understanding who are the people that will come to visit. Children, elders. So there are some things we find in the well. So we took an art display of that. And we also found that if these heritage structures can become earning models to just for their own maintenance. So this is something that sort of evolved into, so the connecting art to water conservation became a very strong link for us to connect to community today. So the moment it connects to community and the context that is there today, I saw that it restored well. Now, Bansilalpet, if you see, we are in the 3rd year after restoration. Spick and span, clean, and there are more than 290 artists that have performed in that space till date. And every year it earns a corpus of more than 11 lakhs. The 50 rupee entry ticket gives the salaries to 4 people who maintain that place. So we are able to, I was able to put a template which after 20 years the well will be in that state and it money for maintenance. If this is, because this is the context today. The moment you see history, tourism, we all go there and trash that place, and that's what Annapurna told me the other day, and I so resonate with what she said. It is true that if you actually follow a beer bottle trail in our country, you will find the most beautiful spots in our country. Right? This is so true. But why do we do this? It's not meant to, go and trash that place. You have to understand the context, the history, the reverence. Like when we went to Kailash Mansarovar, Sadhguru, we went with his guru. He only said one thing: when you walk on Mansarovar, think that you are walking on the body of Shiva. So see the reverence. The moment you get into that space, it's a high energy space. Similarly, all our monuments, the stepwells, is actually a living monument. There's water in it. Reduce urban flooding today. We have showcased that example. It improves the water table. It's a community water security. So earlier communities used to manage. So we're bringing back that model. Today community around the stepwell manages that water. So these kind of models, I think it's very, very intriguing, and we are still discovering and evolving. But I think the art, architecture, community, water, everything, if you connect the dots, it becomes an amazing story, and we should learn how to preserve them. Just restoration is not enough. We have to have a long-term plan to maintain and see them like this for generations ahead.
Thank you, Kalpana. It's amazing to see how you brought stepwell which is lying, looking at had an idea. It was almost like dustbin, right? It's like that was, I've seen the way how much of hard work you put in. So you've repurposed a heritage site. I mean, it was there already as a water body, which lost its purpose. Again, we got it back to its original form, and from there, it towards the heritage structures and the stories behind it.
Today, while Hyderabad, 60% of tanker buying is happening in February. In Bansilpet, around that Steffel, they will never have a water shortage because they've also put a filtration system. They can actually drink clean well water, which is chlorine free, and all the hand pumps are working along. That's the power of these water structures, and that's the traditional knowledge that our ancestors have given us. If we lose them, really we are, worthless, and life is useless if we don't protect, these structures. These are precious.
How beautifully you resonated with, I think many of us who are here actually have different connections in different ways to what we're doing in the heritage spaces. And I love to see the way you've connected with the contemporary need, so which actually goes a long way in connecting to that part. Similarly, I would like to switch to Amar Ramesh. When I met you first time, I was really fascinated the way you have spoken about your own personal journey, Ramesh, about how being a software professional in US, how you got a calling you felt and then you came into the photography field. Coming to photography is one thing, and then getting into the heritage. Heritage is something which is a different ballgame altogether. Of course, photography is a very big part of it. But how did you get to this part of interpretation of heritage through photography?
So, how I came into the heritage part of photography, I should actually thank my time in US for this. I became more Indian living there than when I was here. So I'll give you one example. I went to Kumbh Mela a couple of weeks back, and then everybody, the social media was talking about how dirty it is and how there's so much crowd and all that, right? But so I was also very apprehensive about going there, and I didn't want to be with so much crowd and pollution and all that thing that the rational mind is putting on our minds, right? But then I went there, I had an amazing experience. I took the dip. It was just mind-blowing, right? It was just mind-blowing. And then the dip was so enchanting and so powerful that it took me to this movie. I don't know how many of you watched this Frozen, right? Frozen is basically talking about water as memory. So my mom has been telling, my grandmother has been telling, I didn't ever listen. and then a nice Hollywood film comes and then talks about it, and then we all go gaga about it, right? So the life there in US, the time that I was there, I just was fascinated about how they take the Eastern ideas and then package it really well as if it's their own, right? You go to some countries like Bali, you will feel yoga was born there.
Solid cultural appropriation.
Yeah. So why are we not doing it? Yes, governments have to do a lot of work and all that, but I will go there. I think the conversation has to start from the homes, right? That is where it has to start, right? How many of us are I'll give you an example. During Diwali, FedEx just holds all the shipments because it has to ship sweets to foreign countries. We all ship so much of sweets during Diwali. The sweet business thrives, right? Why are we doing that? Why are we not shipping cultural elements, cultural books on our, cultural things? Why have we become so fascinated about this idea of spreading diabetes, right? So the conversation should start at home, right? Yes, we get fascinated about European things, we get fascinated about Western things, we get fascinated about other countries, but what's in our backyard? Let's talk about that. Can we have pictures of our own places in our homes hanging on the walls? Can we have more people working on books and children books about our cultural things. Like you, can we have more patrons coming into it? All this has to happen before we blame or expect government to do something, right? I think every one of us has some duty towards doing something in our own strengths. See, we all talk about temples and all that. Like, honestly, how many people really care about keeping it clean? We all take the vibhutis and kumkums and then throw it there, right there and there. So lots and lots of conversations has to happen. Lots of ways that we have to, start this conversation. As parents, as teachers, as patrons, everyone should mindfully start conversations around this. And by only doing that, will change. I think a huge role plays in, how we reform the next generation. I get fascinated these days. Kids are taken to NASA and all that for field study in schools, right? But see, Kumbh Mela is a perfect example. It's an alignment of stars. We in our culture have figured out those things even before telescopes were born and all that. Right? We have everything. Look at the statues work that we have in our temples. Yesterday I was seeing one statue where there is a hole from this year to this year. It's like 0.5 millimeter. They've figured out everything. And how are these monoliths done? How did they do? What are the equipments used? I think we have as a community become modern, but we're still so outdated when you compare with all these things. So I feel a lot of these things will change when we start the conversation. And then we have to, as parents, as teachers, as artists, we have to help start this conversation. And that will get the ball rolling, and many more things will happen.
Thank you, Ramesh. So, love that sentence of yours that conversations have to start from home. Because that's where we learn maximum, and we also understand. We connect the max to the houses. So when it starts at home, definitely we're going to be more living it, more than just talking about it. So coming to Akul. Akul also is a engineering background, and he's taken to multimedia, and his entire focus is on curating heritage sites. And his focus is actually, when I was speaking to Akul today morning, I felt that especially Ekaant, you've taken almost 43 episodes out of it and focused on neglected or lesser known sites. So what was your experience when you were talking? Conversations you said are important too. So how did you feel when you were speaking to the villagers and to the local communities about the structures that we don't know of? So what kind of experiences you encountered and which will help us in connecting better?
Ekaant was a revolutionary journey for me. It revolutionized the way I look at it. I was lucky enough to get to travel to most of these places through various means, and I had a fair idea that a place like this exists and not many people know about it. And talking about, we started Ekaant in 2013, so this is pretty much pre the boost of Google and social media, so the information about it was pretty less. In fact, we used to get a lot of queries about how do we actually go there, because even that information was not available. So I realized one of the most fascinating realizations for me was when working on a site somewhere, let's say Daulatabad, which was near Aurangabad, it's the old Aurangabad, originally was Aurangabad before Aurangabad became Aurangabad. And we are looking for people. We had a desire to speak with people, experts who are from the area, so that they can give a bit of perspective of the places and the monuments and the history of the area, more than what we would have gotten from a generalized summation on books which are meant to be for a pan-India audience, something more real, as we would call it in today's time, like a reality show, talk to the people who actually live there, expert. And it was quite fascinating that most of the local experts had done their thesis on monuments which were in Delhi. And they didn't really know more than what the Wikipedia page knew about the place which is maybe 1 kilometer down the road from their house where they lived the entire life. Later we figured out that one of the reasons for that is that for research you need to quote a lot of previous research. And a lot of previous research is, now that everything is largely in English, is not available in English for a lot of the local places. So people they had a habit of going there and reading it was easily available because the final goal was actually the degree and not really to add any substantial value to the corpus of literature that exists. So we got to a place where we started speaking with experts who actually had done some work on it or requested people to read up on the local things and tell us about it before we went to the place, before we spoke with those local experts so that we could perhaps tell them a little. And this is, I am just singling out this was something that was consistent through all the places we went to, be it Tripura, be it Karnataka, be it Bengal. So that was something I think we need to relook at in the way we conduct our academics to be able to further genuine sources of information. That also led me to another point when we talk about tourism, that we say that when we are out of India, we are the representatives of India, we should have traveled our country to go out. And I think if we put that down to a microcosm, the first line of tourists to a place are those. And how is it that we can encourage the locals to see the places they live around as tourism attractions and not just things that you ignore or landmarks on Google Maps to get your Zomato order? That, once if we can crack that, and of course forests have done that in a way of including local people into the entire business of forest tourism and jeep safaris, etc. But somehow heritage tourism has not been able to crack that. I live in Bombay. There is, if you talk about sculptural art, there is Kaniri caves, there is Ekaant caves, there is Akali caves, there is Jogeshwari caves. All these caves are Buddhist era caves which have so much art also in them. Even if nothing else, there is amazing places to go and visit of a heritage far, far older than what we call as the history of Bombay, which may have come from the Middle Ages. But you would rarely find people who have been there or even know about it. Which is strange, but how can we change this? How can we get people to go there? I come from a media background and we've evolved from a place where people would spend money 5-7 times to go and watch a movie in a theatre, be in rapt attention for 2.5 hours, 3 hours watching Rajinikanth, watching Amitabh Bachchan, to a place where today you can't hold an audience attention for 3 seconds. And that gets me back to my management school lessons about the push and pull strategy, and somehow we need to change our thinking of giving information as a push strategy to a more pull strategy. And what we were talking about in the morning, that how can we make this seem cool? How can we have it that people can start looking up for this information and demanding it rather than us saying that we need to do this and we need to do that, add this incentive and provide this facility extra to incentivize people to come. I think that being able to generate that germ of wanting to know it, even if it starts off as a very superficial because it's cool, because I was frozen and I thought that I need to know more about this. How can we create more of those moments and instances for people to come up? Now, again, like in the morning we said that for me the first thing when I look at it, we in media tend to look at things in sets. Like this color is nice, this setting is nice, the light is nice. And when I see monuments, I see dramatic cinema sets which are underutilized. I don't see color. I think all these sets had color at some point. They had drapes, they had brilliant views of color on it, but today they are all stone. When I take friends to forts and they take me through the ritual, give me a history of this place, after 2 or 3 times they say that it all looks the same as Raigad, Singar, they're all just forts, they're just stones. So how can we, visual attraction, and we, like when I come from a place of photography where visual and scientists say that our minds and brains are tuned towards the visual element, and our eyes take 80% of our processing power in our brain. How can we make our sites visually more attractive, more Instagrammable, more, I want to take a selfie with this place? And I think a large part of the link between creative link to the demand for tourism should lie in that.
Thank you, Akul. You brought out that element of colorfulness, right? Definitely that attracts. But when you go to the monument, my take is like, you just see the colors there still, do you notice the stories behind those colors? You know, how much it's a point to be, and what I feel about it, that's what I'm saying. Coming back to understanding heritage, these days we have a lot of opportunities in the form of digital media, social media, and a lot of stories can be told through them. It's not just going there and see. Now we can see it in different, sitting in the house, going in the train, going by anywhere you can see these things. So how do we think this can be used, in what form and method? I know that Ramesh, you're doing coffee table books to reach out with beautiful pictures. You're doing your media world is there. Sir has done his bit and he's propagating through podcasts and all those. Kalpana also has her own way of, actually she's doing offline more, getting her step wells because they really are vibrating nowadays because of that. So these are the things. So how do we use a digital world, sir, now to actually, in a way that it reaches out? It's a story. See, I feel heritage is a story of ourselves, not just about the country. It's our journey into the stage that we are in now. So how do we connect to that journey through these stories? What is the important link that we're missing here? I want you to tell me, sir, Muhammed, sir.
See, we are missing something because if you go to a monument, mostly monuments are in a very ruinous condition even now. So how this might have looked at that time, that I think digitally we can recreate it. So Dr. Srinivas is sitting here. So he is now thinking of he has got a plan of doing certain things by three-dimensional digital way, how to reconstruct. One of our participants, she has done it, where is she? She has done it here. And some of them, especially from this one, she has shown a number of things. Yeah. So that is the way we have to recreate their city. And the city of Pateshwar or Nalanda University. So Nalanda University, because if you just show how it was looking at that time,
This is like
the picture would be very trash. And as I just discussed it, because only 60% of the university has been discovered. The rest of the 40% of the university is still very, but you can reconstruct it on the basis of the digital media. So there we will have to do that, and that will be a great contribution in improving tourism also and in making the people understand what a glorious civilization we have. So that is one of the best ways.
So like Ramesh.
See, I add to that. I think the bigger problem is I think the pride or the admiration towards our things has to increase. It's just because we're not proud about what we have. We don't admire what we have. We don't take it seriously. I think, and that pride and admiration should come at many levels in many places. Like I said initially, conversations should start first. And then, okay, who tells about these proud things? Right? Okay, tell me 10 things about Ramappa temple that you're proud about, right? But so many people in Hyderabad have not even visited Ramappa temple. I know, it's 3 hours for that, right? That is because we are not told the amazing facts of that temple in a simplest way. The temple, when you go there, there are no placards, there are no informations there. All you have is one ASI board saying it's an ASI monument, right? So, how do we increase that pride? How do we increase that admiration when we were being engineered for so many years that our things are lesser, in terms of admiration, in terms of pride, than things that are Western and things that are outside India. So, there are historians. I've always felt, hey, what if there is an Uber for historians, right? If I'm at a monument, I just connected to some historian in an application where I can immediately call or talk to a historian or get on a video message with a historian and ask about Ramappa temple. I don't have to have some guide take me around. Or how do we increase the number of schools for guides? I see this enormous number of photographers coming into this field, but I don't see that there's so much requirement of good guides. I don't see guides coming in, right? Like a lot of guides could make a lot of money, more than what a photographer can do, taking to nice places, giving good information, but we don't have guide schools.
We need well-informed guides.
Yeah, well-informed guides.
Well trained,
Who are trained, who have the right facts and everything, and who can, behave well, who can talk well, who can communicate well, and all that, in all the aspects, right? So how do we do that? How do we place documents? How do we place the right information, placards, in the places that we go to? So somehow we have to all work together. When I say all, everyone, like parents, teachers, everyone should work around getting that pride back to our things. And that pride and admiration only will lead to more and more things, right? So when you go to Vietnam, we all pay tickets to watch a water puppetry, right? Most of our puppets are gone, they're extinct. So why have we not done anything? Because the puppet artist is not recommending or encouraging his kids to get into it. He's rather recommending them to go to an IT job and work. A guy who is doing, like in Tamil Nadu, there is something called Tiruppachi, right? It's a process, and that sickle is that the things that sickle can do, very few instruments can do, right? But that sickle has been projected in cinema as a violence thing, right? So the entire language of that sickle is gone. That cultural thing is gone. And then the sickle maker would rather send his son to Amazon and work for like 15,000 rupees or 16,000 rupees rather than earning from what their blood is, what their like ancestral thing is. So there's a huge thing in terms of like there's a lot of to bring back that pride, bring back that admiration towards what we have. And only by doing that, a lot more things will happen.
Institutions, the process of learning first. For me in architecture, the third year, the case study that we did at Goganameshwara temple at the foothills of Nadi still stays in memory. Because it's a place we were there for 3 days, and every stone, nook and corner, and the learning has to be such. Otherwise, we become very boxed in terms of history. It's only available in theory, in books. It should not be in theory. I think from the academic, right from being a child, like how many of us in our own families, how many generations do we know? How many of us have map stories? If you take anybody's mom, it's a story worth telling. Everyone is a storybook in themselves. We never look at anything like this, right? So I think we are just tuned in a certain boxed environment to our education, career, and which is why we are the way we are. We see a historical monument in front of us. It doesn't resonate with us. Only when you go to the books it resonates. Why? Why does that connection have to be made? Are we not part of that? Are we not part of that history? Like he says, there is no pride. And bringing back that, I think, should happen right from the early days, right from school, college. So it should become a way of life. Like the Nike masks which we have displayed here in Bhadrachalam, it's a way of life. You know, for them it's not a mask, it's not a work of art, it's their culture, it's their tradition. It speaks a lot about who they are. That is what our folk art and culture is. It's actually who we are. That who we are is forgotten. And today we have to invent another mechanism to reconnect. Because we've really lost the path like crazy. We've just erased many things and many things are going extinct. So reinventing that path in our own ways and exactly what we need to do is in today's community context. This is the kind of youth we have. This is how they think. This is our previous generation. What do they want? What do they want? Like I completely agree with Akul when he says local awareness is also important. You don't have to go somewhere, but within Hyderabad, how many heritage sites are there? How many of us have gone? So there's no pride, there's no understanding, there's no research, there's nothing. Imagine a 42-year-old, 42 years, a stepwell was sitting in the garbage. There is no footprint of that in any book. How come? It's a monument.
Yeah, you're right, Kalpana. Actually, I do agree with many things that you said, but the thing is, even to feel pride when you're aware of things, right? As a first step, what I
In
can
Rashtrapati Nilayam, when we restored 3 stepwells, the history of Rashtrapati Nilayam is beautiful. So we made an interpretation center first to talk about the history. How did Britishers capture? What is this resident about? What was this British residency which is there within the Nilayam? Why did they build it? And what were the, how did they manage the whole water within those wells? And how it was, 1948 that Hyderabad got his, it got its freedom, independence. And how it was handed over at that flag post there. So one school going kid, she called and told me, I didn't know about this, and when I knew about this from whatever is written in the interpretation center, she said I went and stood at the flag post and I felt goosebumps. But like sir is telling, unless you talk about what that place is, that experience doesn't come. You are just seeing things visually. So I think a lot needs to.
Yeah. So anyway, just to hopefully conversations. Yeah, conversations at home, the guides, and then speaking out, and also connecting to the knowledge that we have. I feel that we have a lot of knowledge, actually, but that's not coming out. So how do we bring it out is the thing. Of course, so you want to speak something else. Akul, would you like to throw some more light on this digital aspect and that you guys?
Personally, I think digital tourism is a farce. I want to be at that place. I need to have my feet on the ground and I am not old-fashioned. I think looking at a lot of things digitally before I go to the place may have been a necessity at one time because of how do you get there. But in today's world where almost everything is on my phone and every time, I like to not read up about the place before I go there. I like to want to go and experience the place first and then check up on it, what I think before I cloud my head with what everyone else has spoken about. From the point of view of just everything that has been said, I have always had this disconnect between what we read as history and what the local guides tell us. And, I mean, these are certified guides. These are not guides who are just randomly standing up and saying, "Aa jao, main tumhe kahani sunata." So somewhere with being certified guides, they are carrying with them a sense of credibility, which unfortunately in what they tell us is completely missing. But when I look at it from the point of view of what I do, which is telling stories, I understand that it is an adaptation to consumer requirement. People who are going to a site do not want to know what happened in 1735 or in 1566. They want to know stories. Because they don't know the stories of the place. Because maybe those stories of those places are not written in the language that they understand or accessible to them. They make up stories. They are filling a very basic commercial demand. And if we as a filmmaker, if we in our respective professions can actually fill in that gap of giving audiences to monuments what they require, which is stories, I think we will see a different kind of a regulation. With technology, I think in the monuments we talk about a lot of GPS-driven things, we talk about a lot of information, but augmented reality is something that is completely lacking and missing. If I can hold up my phone at the Qutub Minar or at the Railway Fort and I can say that, okay, this is the place where it transforms into the throne where Shivaji used to sit, Shivaji Maharaj ka darbar tha yahan pe. If that phone can make you look through it, I think it's a game changer when it comes to storytelling. If that can be reenacted, played out while you hold your phone up, if I can hold my phone up and buy a chair on Amazon, why can't I do this? So,
Actually, that is the need of the hour. I think along with it, I would like to thank you, wrap up, and I would say that we can't totally negate the role of the government in bringing about the change that we want to see. Government also needs to have an overarching vision towards building awareness towards heritage. We are so enriched, we are so blessed, and we need to be, we do feel proud of it, but we don't know how to go about knowing about it. So as a wrap up, I just want one word from each of you to let us know what is the missing, how do we just make up whatever we spoke just now. One line or one word. One takeaway, I would say, key takeaway for this session.
I can go first. So I would put a request to every one of you here. Next time you want to give somebody something, right? Try to see if you can get a mask, get a carpet, get a mat, get something that is from a cultural thing, and help somebody who is doing it and who is struggling to sell it. Rather buy a bouquet or a shawl or a sweet box or cakes or something like that. So unless and until the sales improves, there won't be concentration on, there won't be like people working on it. Only the sales will drive the demand, and only if the demand increases, more people will get into it. See, a carpet maker is moving into construction because he's getting 300 rupees in carpet making and he's getting 700 rupees in construction, right? So if we all come together and make it possible for him to earn 800 rupees, he'll not leave the job that his ancestors did for generations. So next time you give something, be mindful of what you're doing. And that one simple act will change a lot of things.
The one thing I want to say is connect everything to today's community context and today's needs. That's when it becomes a So be good doers and protect our heritage.
So, because our generation, we have grown up with the Amar Ramesh that has gone to the internal structure of the earth. So we have that kind of love for our language. So for every monument also there should be a kind of Amar Ramesh, like the augmented reality, because these are certain things which is going to influence the next generation. And that is the way how we can generate a kind of feeling, awakening among the students also, for our monuments, for our country, and for the next generation. That would be a very meaningful contribution we can do, and we have to persuade the government. The government is not taking the kind of interest which they should have taken. Because some of the states they are, but even now it is at a very insignificant level. They are not much bothered about culture. They are bothered about the the tourism. But the way culture should be presented, they are not involved with it. Whichever government is involved.
My mother is an accountant and she was cost accountant. So very early on in my life, she put it firmly into my head that the government is one-third partner in your profits. It disowns your losses. I think that if you want to compel the government to come into this in a more structured way where they are heavily invested in it, I think they should see the 33% profit that they're going to get from it before they will come. I think the only way for that is local entrepreneurship. And when I say local entrepreneurship, it doesn't necessarily mean only people selling chai at the monuments, but whether it is an app, whether it is gifting things, whether it is making augmented reality stories, whatever else, whatever be the business model over there. But if there can be business models on a local level, the way Kalpana Ramesh creates with the setbacks, if they can give them an advantage and make it relevant to them at the place that they are, I think the government will be compelled to come in and take their share of the profit from it. And there are several working examples to this in various levels. If you move away from just move into conservation, for example, there are places in Ratnagiri where the olive ridley turtle nest. There's a large nesting place in Odisha, but a small one in Ratnagiri, and the locals have contributed heavily towards ensuring that the resting place is not disturbed. They do night tours, they take people and inform them about it. So since the local community is becoming an entrepreneur, they are becoming invested in the idea, there is government cooperation that had to come into making sure that lights are not switched on around that area, ship movement is restricted. They were compelled to do it. I think in today's age, with the kind of information and resources we have, things that we have at our disposal, the kind of place we're sitting at T-Works, where so many things are being made possible, it have to come from local entrepreneurship to make a difference.
Thank you. On the break, we have time for a question, please. No, I don't. One or two questions? Anybody else?
So my question to you, all of you, is, we are a much older generation. Why are you guys not going to schools and trying to get them to go to the temple? Doing those kind of things. Their own little temple, not religiously, but just go to see the architecture, everything. Because all these kids go on field trips to Spain, France, all these exotic places, but they don't go around here, even to the steeple. If we can organize something, I think that would be, instilling in the kids, hey, there's something in Hyderabad that we have to see. What do you think?
So the stepwell we've restored today, in the last 2 years, there's more than 60,000 students from schools that have visited. And many of the children that come there, when I go to talk to them, they have said, we've never seen a well. And I said, what? What are you telling them? Actually true. A 7-year-old has never seen a well because he has not been to a village. There's no one in the village for him. And the families are all here. They've not seen a well. They don't know what's a well. So we have to start, we have to begin from here. And definitely that's and history should not be seen in silos today. When the children come there, we also talk to them about sustainability, urban flooding, the stepwell, the heritage, history, all these tangents are taught to these kids. Because history, I believe, should not be seen in silos. Everything is a connect. Yeah, sorry, I can't hear you, but...
ISH.
ISH, yeah, I think they have talked to us, and yes, they wanted to get the kids and yes.
You have to get the teachers and the staff and the management to speak to them actually to build awareness.
Yeah, absolutely.
The casual of the
Space is open for this.
This is from me. I'm Ananda here, right at the back. Muhammed Saab, Namaste. Ananda Shankar Jayant here. Wonderful to have all of you here and share your thoughts. I think I wanted to just make a statement, not a question. A tying up of what Amar said, Kalpana said, Muhammad ji said, as well as Akul. I think the shift we all need to make vis-a-vis archaeology, I'm a student of archaeology, and history and our tourism context, as well as taking it to the next generation. For me, the simple shift would be to stop calling it monument and give it back to the society, to make each recused and reworked monument as a living temple. Once you give it back to society, like what Kalpana has done, let the society, let the community own it, then this division, this wall that we have about being outsiders looking at a monument will go. I think if that is, I know it's a sore point with ASI. I know that because I know from this saved monument concept. But if you give it back and make it a living temple, because that's what it was meant to be, then I think everything falls into place. If all these points that you've all been talking about will quickly align.
At the consular pit Stepwell, there are Muslim women on one side of the well. They're not even allowed to come to the street below. But today, they can, from their balconies, they watch award-winning shows or dances and concerts. They actually call and thank them that they've never seen something like this ever. And today, while folding clothes or making biryani, they quickly come to the balcony, sit for a while, and those balconies have become like amazing spaces for them today. They invite their friends. So giving back to the community, it's true. I mean, that's what needs to be done.
This is the last question anybody has.
She's on yours. She's asking.
Ananda, do you have any question? So good, there's a key takeaway I felt after listening to all of you is we have to connect to the current aspirations and needs to be able to get our heritage into our homes. So let's all strive towards making it, each one of us has to strive towards making it. Of course, the government also has to play its role. Let's hope for the best days to come, and then our next generation is going to be ambassadors for our cultural heritage very soon, with all of us playing a key role in that. Thank you so much. I have a really incredible panelists today. I'm very happy to hear your and Muhammed sir, especially to you. I'm so happy to have you on this panel. Ramesh and Akul, amazing. I got a lot of key takeaways to do for my organization. Thank you all so much. I would love to thank Annapurna for facilitating this panel discussion and doing so passionately, bringing all the artists and the heritage, fuse them together to take it forward. Thank you so much, Annapurna. Thank you all. Thank you the audience, every audience, actually. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tejaswini, for moderating it so beautifully.
A heartfelt thanks to our esteemed panelists, Padma Shri K.K. Muhammad ji, Dr. Tejaswini Yarlagadda, Kalpana Ramesh, Amar Ramesh and Akul Tripathi for sharing their invaluable insights today. Your passion, dedication to art, heritage and conservation are truly inspiring. Thank you all for being part of this meaningful discussion. Now, we are going to witness the mesmerizing Pelinatyam, an ancient and powerful dance rooted in the rich heritage of Telangana. Pelinatyam, often referred to as the dance of warriors, dates back to the Kakatiya dynasty
and was performed by soldiers before heading to battle. With its vigorous movements, rhythmic footwork, and deep spiritual essence, this dance is a tribute to Lord Shiva, embodying strength, devotion, and discipline. Tonight's performance is led by incredibly talented R. Sandhi, a dedicated artist from the Manidvipa Art Academy in Hyderabad. Under his guidance, the Academy has been working tirelessly to revive and promote this historic dance form, ensuring that its legacy continues to inspire future generations. Prepare to be captivated by the energy, grace, and spiritual depth of Pelli Dandiya. Please join me in welcoming our